Good evening. It is 5:30, Monday, January 22nd. If we could get the regular meeting of the Amherst Board of Education to order by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Zappa?
Here.
Mrs. Gillis? Mr. Engel?
Present.
Dr. Messer? Mrs. Wacholz?
Recommendations to adopt the agenda as presented, including all addendums.
So moved. Second.
Second. Any discussions? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Engel?
Aye.
Mrs. Gillis?
Aye.
Dr. Messer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wacholz? Mr. Zappa?
Aye. Hearing none, public, do we have anybody signed up?
I didn't know I was supposed to sign up. Can I still sign up? Sorry about that.
Need a drink of water?
Thanks, myself.
GPS took me to the football stadium.
If you want to go ahead and start while she fills it out, you can go ahead and, do you want to stand up?
Yes.
Yeah.
How's everybody today?
Come up here. Please state your name and address. If you don't mind.
Where at?
Here's fine.
Pedro Venegas, 596 Maple Creek Drive, Amherst, obviously. The reason I wanted to talk today was about bus safety. There was an incident. My wife's a bus driver, and I'm talking as a concerned parent. My two kids ride on the bus, and there's this kid that threw a golf ball. He got stuck under the gas pedal or under the brake. My wife was able to dislodge, or not dislodge it, but she pulled her air brake, and luckily it wasn't in a high traffic area. But if it would have happened in a high traffic area, it could have been worse. But my biggest concern is little Johnny here has been written up 8 times before this. And all the disciplinary actions were for distracting the bus driver. That bus is almost over capacity. Luckily, there's always a kid that's missing. And I know you already know it, but every policy the school says they are not to disrupt the bus driver. And that's the state law also. But nothing's being done about these kids that have been written up. And my concern is, what if it was a serious incident? Just because it didn't happen seriously, my wife was able to take care of it. What happened to my wife and kids if something did happen? My wife would be at fault. Yeah, I wouldn't care. I would. What happens if an accident happens and she lives? She's at fault. Not her. Not the kid. The kid is innocent. He just brought a golf ball that wasn't supposed to be right. I get that. But he's not being disciplined for all the other stuff he's been written up for. Yes, I know all this because I do ask my wife every day how her day's going. And I can know that she's mad and frustrated. She doesn't tell me names, so I say little Johnny. She refuses to tell me names. But those are my kids up there. Wait the next time he does something. gets written up and the school doesn't do anything. The school's not communicating with bus director. The bus director's telling my wife to call the principal. That is not my wife's job. My wife's job is to take care of those kids on that bus, to make sure they're safe on that bus.
So your wife did take it to
just
the
lost-
supervisor?
Yeah, she put the air brake, but if she was on the highway,
No, I mean, she reported it to her
she
supervisor?
reported it, she wrote the kid up, and she had to call the principal herself to find out what was going on. Because nothing was being done.
Is that something?
Yeah, so I'm aware of the situation, and so I know that, through my Jody, she had a meeting with the principal and assistant principal at the building. talked
No, I
about-
didn't. We spoke on the phone. I didn't meet with them in person.
Also through emails as well about the
Correct.
situations, and they went through the issues and the situations of all the write-ups. So you know, those were discussed with Jody, so she's aware of what's happening. Our process is, you know, the bus drivers can write the students up. Those write-ups come to the principal. The principal's job is to then try to investigate as much as possible, and then work with parents, students, etc., on consequences or whatever they might be necessary to address the situation.
My question
So-
is, why are the consequences the same across the board, all schools? The Moore principal is very strict with all the students. Granted, powers are little kids, I get that. He gives them a lollipop and tells them, don't do this again, and don't do this again tomorrow, I'll give you a star. I understand the BBIS isn't what it's supposed to implement, but at the same time, that's not what it's supposed to implement. You're supposed to have them do good so you can give them, when nobody's looking and you see them, maybe he does something good, or she does something good, like here. Not reward them for being bad, and this is his 12th write-up and nothing's happening.
So
I mean, if something happens to my kids and my wife,
Yeah.
It says, I
we
get,
care about everyone.
can we look into that a little bit?
Sure, we can actually look into it a little bit.
I mean, you have all these write-ups, you have all these rules for disciplinary and suspension and everything else, and nothing's being followed.
Mr. Muller to look into it, and then,
And I will say, well, let me just say this though. We look into all incidents, and our administrators work very hard in addressing behaviors and issues on the buses and in the building. So, and yeah, it is true, at any time, a bus driver, anyone can reach out to a principal, assistant principal, you know, our phone numbers are all on the website.
That's not the best
Everyone has
responsibility.
access if they'd like to find out what's happening.
okay,
But once it's turned over to the principal, that's the principal, assistant principal's job to then investigate, handle, and deal with it. Now, I have shared with transportation supervisor, I've shared with the union president, Nora, that at any time, if a bus driver decides that they want to handle the discipline themselves instead of with the principal, they want to take ownership of that, contact the parent, work with the parent, they're more than welcome at any time to then take the discipline consequences in-house with transportation. It's a cooperative thing we do. It's kind of difficult having, again, bus drivers and transportation seeing situations, dealing with situations, a principal, assistant principal who is not on the bus, has not seen the situation, getting information with a write-up, then having to try to investigate. It is difficult sometimes. But
So a bus driver
yes.
could say to a student, you can't ride the bus for 30 days.
No, the administrator can, which could be the transportation supervisor. But that's something that that happens many times. That happens many times. So again,
And that's
we're willing to work with whatever situation is best for the kids and the bus driver and the parents. And
Yeah, was something to add. If you're saying the bus driver can't talk to the parents, for instance, that happened the last place where we're at. Parents get mad and start cussing. Parents start saying, accusing stuff. I've had a parent call my wife that we're friends with because her little Johnny wouldn't do that. This happened an incident last year with Amherst school districts. You had a bus driver that flipped. You heard been in the news one more time about the strikes. We don't want to be in the news. We want to try to prevent what's happening with the kids. I get it. They're kids. They're going to mess up. But at the same time, they need to be disciplined to a certain point to learn. Yeah. It's going to inconvenience their parents for 1 or 2 days. Good. They're going to learn. Tell little Johnny or Susie, don't do it again.
Well, I understand, like I said, now that we know what's going on, I think Mr. Mona's got a handle on it, we'll see what we can do with that. Did Mrs. Vangus, did you want to speak?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time.
I would like to bring light to some of the parking issues at both AJH, Powers, and Steel. It doesn't seem to be a prevalent issue at Nord. I'm not sure why, that it's not an issue there, it's just not. Not that I've experienced. As far as AJH, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that main driveway off of Milan. It says no parking fire lane on both sides, coming and going. There are cars parked there every day, every single day. Now, what if there was an emergency at that school? You know, and buses are coming in or going out, we're gonna play chicken with emergency vehicles because there's cars parked on either side of that driveway. Now, from my understanding that's what that little parking lot is for, right as you come in off of Milan, is for parents to park there, or they have the option to come in through Powers and circle that parking lot to pick up their students. It's not as big of an issue in the morning, but we still get lots and lots of traffic through there in the morning coming off of Milan because they're coming in that way and going through the parking lot on the AJ side to drop off their kids. So now we have all of these cars coming and going. They're dropping off students where they're not supposed to, which creates havoc for us, for busing, especially in the morning because it's dark. This time of year, it is pitch dark. You know, so we have to be mindful of other buses, cars coming in and out, and then where they're dropping off these students. You know what I mean? I would hate for something awful to happen, and the potential's there. You know, it's just not safe. And the RSOs are there frequently, or the SORs, you guys call them that here. And they don't do anything. I have pictures and videos on my phone if any one of you would like to see exactly what I'm talking about from a bus driver's perspective. No, I didn't take these videos while I was driving. Either my monitors did or my kids. So just so we're clear on that, I did not break any safety rules by obtaining these pictures or the videos that I do have on my phone. And a lot of times in the afternoon at AJH, there is, the SOR is present. He's right there at the end of the driveway in his vehicle most of the time, and he just sits there and he doesn't get that traffic from parking in a clearly posted fire lane. And I really think that needs to be addressed because I did get a copy of his job description. It is absolutely his job. And he also has the right to make arrests, write citations. He is first and foremost employed by our local police department, not just the school. So he has that right on private and public property. And then on top of that, when those cars are parked in that driveway, you know, and they, for whatever reason, sometimes we are late getting out of there. Students are late, they can't get to their lockers, what have you, we're told to wait, you know, or we're late coming in. So in turn, we're late coming out as well, and they've dismissed the walkers. So now we've got all these kids flooding to those cars as we're trying to pull out. And we can't see them, even in broad daylight. If they're darting between those cars and across that driveway to get to mom who's on the other side, it's a problem. It's a big safety concern. And it concerns me because, like I said, I have children that go to this school, you know, and that could be one of them. You know, I don't know if you all have children in the district, but it could be one of your children that run out and get hit by a car or a bus, you know, because we have people parked where they shouldn't be, if that makes any sense. Over at Steel, and that's another thing too, we don't have anything that says buses only, clearly marked in any of these areas where we pull in and park. You know, most districts have a sign that says buses only from very specific times, so that, you know, parents and the general public know that during those specific times, that particular area is off limits. And that's for safety. You know, there's no other reason for that to be posted other than for safety. So that the buses can get in and out, they can get their kids safely, you know, without any interference from, you know, other vehicles. They don't have that here in any of the schools. You know, I would like to see that happen.
Mike, can you maybe get Chuck to look at that or talk to the SROs?
Yeah, we almost every year, meet with our local police department, SROs, kind of review traffic patterns and arrival dismissal. So we can certainly do mid-year review and look at that again. The issue, unfortunately, is again, as many times as we post proper traffic patterns of where buses and cars should go, it's unfortunate, but some parents just choose not to follow directions, or they want to drop their kid off whenever they, So it's just it's a constant battle. It's been that way for
Staying down.
It's been that way for
Yeah, well, see, let's talk to them
Sure.
and see if we can get some results.
Sure, absolutely.
there.
Lots of tickets.
Is, any more concerns? Or?
Yes, please.
Huh?
Here at Steel, just for example, where I park in our bus lineup is right here by the flagpole along this sidewalk where the visitors parking is. I have videos of cars during dismissal, children on phones, because we all know they can't do anything without a phone in front of their face. There's a car that backed out and a child walked right behind that car on her phone. While we were parked, and I have several of those videos, different vehicles will pull forward because the buses are there, go up onto the sidewalk to be able to get out and then wiggle between the buses. And in the one video that I have, the RSO is standing there. He doesn't do anything about it. Kids are walking around, buses are parked, and cars are weaving in and out of parked buses to avoid getting stuck behind them, I'm going to assume. I mean, if I was a parent, that would be my only motivation to do something stupid like that, to go up onto a sidewalk to get out from where the buses are parked. Because I don't want to be patient. I don't want to get stuck behind a school bus. Again, a huge safety issue. That's concerning to me. I have a daughter here at the high school. That could have been her. I have 3 kids in 3 different of our buildings locally. You know what I mean? So these issues are not just my issues as a bus driver, but as a parent as well. If that makes any sense, because at any given point, my kids could be out in that. And they could be at risk for being run over by a car or a bus. We're not perfect. We're all human. We all make mistakes. You don't see a kid running. It's a possibility. It's very frightening to me. I would personally like to see admins outside AJH during dismissal, preferably on the field side at the corner, right where our last bus parks. On both sides, actually, because that's where I park there. And I have kids that are running past my bus, spitting on each other, cussing at each other, hitting each other, throwing snowballs at one another, and there's no administration present in that area during dismissal to kind of help control some of that behavior. I know the kids are wild and they're excited, they want to go home, they're out of school, but that kind of behavior, it's against policy. It's in our student handbook. They can't behave that way on school grounds, if that makes any sense. So I would like to maybe have a conversation about that as well. Some administrative presence at AJ in the afternoon, just to kind of curb some of that behavior as well. And again, they're not paying attention. These kids are running wild. Cars are parked there. If little Johnny's running out, he normally rides a bus, but mom sent him a text and said, hey, I'm here. This is where I'm parked. So they're going to blow right past the busing and they're going to run to wherever mom is parked in an illegal fire lane. Again, a big problem. And then we're pulling out and so is mom.
Well, I think
At
it's
the
time,
same time.
like I said,
Yeah, so, it just creates a lot of problems.
I understand. Get with the SROs and administration and see what we can do to curb that or work. So, appreciate your concerns. We'll see what we can do to get that remedied. I'm sure you've talked to Tia as well, correct?
Yeah, I do
Okay.
communicate with her.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, this will leave it there.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you both. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions? Comments? Treasurer's report?
Good evening. Forward, please. All right, this is the financial recap. You are used to seeing revenues on the top, expenditures on the bottom. In the middle 3 columns, that's month to date, this year, fiscal 24 compared to 23 and fiscal 22. On the rightmost margin is fiscal year to date expenditures. Next page, I have, actually go back, Sarah, please. Thank you. You can't see it on there, although we are running ahead. Spending is outpacing prior years by $2.3 million. It's increased from last year, or $400,000 to date. And then this means deficit spending, decreasing of cash reserves from this year to last year at the time, $1.7 million reduction in cash. Next page. This is a new view. This is just fiscal year budget compared to actual to date. So the $39.8 million we're expected to receive in revenue, we've received $19.5 million. That is less than 49% of the revenue budget. And down in the lower right corner, you'll see that of the total expenditure budget for fiscal '24, we spent 52%. This is just a quick view. It's by 5-year forecast, so it really follows along with the report that you just looked at. This is just a snapshot of revenue, actual, and percent of budget. Next. Just a quick update. You're going to hear more from Mr. David Conley, front row, Rockville Financial, in a little bit here. These were slides that were in the December presentation. You remember we were experiencing technical difficulties with the presentation. We received mid-December the election results from November. Obviously, the PI replacement levy passed, 54-24-4, and 4,471 votes against it. Recall that we discussed an official intent to reimburse. This was approved by the board way back in July of 2001, and that was after the bond had been passed for the project that became Amherst Junior High. Certified that resolution, and just know that going forward for this project, the transportation center and athletic upgrades, we will be able to reimburse ourselves for any expenditures from the Permanent Improvement Fund from the COPS proceeds. And then we're looking at generating 16.5 to 17 million in the COPS issuance. And just know that between all of the different partners in the project, which includes bond counsel, municipal advisor, the underwriter, which is Stiefel, and ourselves, and Red Tree, who is the investment advisor for the district. They are looking at if we have issuance of the COPS in mid-April or later, thereabouts, the timeline that you'll see next is very fluid. And if we see completion of the projects approximately August of 2025, payout will be sometime after that, September, October, certainly 2025. They are preparing, obviously, an estimate of investment earnings that would also be able to be used toward the projects. So I will share that with the board when I receive it. Next slide. I put this increased appropriations because you'll see this in my recommendations. The PI levy, I'm asking the board to appropriate $906,000 more in the PI fund this year due to increased collections. So what the PI levy, again, was 40 years old, and due to House Bill 920 reductions and such, that levy was collecting less than half of the original voted millage. That increase to 2.5 mils is generating about another $1 million to $1.1 million a year. So we will receive our first collection of 2023 here in a couple of weeks. So in the next slides on my recommendations, you'll see an increase in PI. And then the timeline for the COPS issuance, the preliminary official circular, I'm going to pass it around right now. This is the first draft that came out last Friday. We will have a nearly final POC at the end of February. And again, this is fluid because we're not sure when we need to issue the sooner we issue, the sooner we will have debt service, more than likely. So, and that's the principal and interest payments. So we want to try to find a sweet spot of, when to issue so that we can capitalize on increased investment earnings and put off the debt service payments as long as possible. What that enables us to do is build a cash balance in the permanent improvement fund so we can actually fund additional projects in the district, whether we find that it's transportation needs, additional buses, or capital repairs on our buildings or what have you. So trying to find that sweet spot when the best time is to issue. The board will be seeing resolutions in February, March timeframe. Moody's Investor Service will be producing a rating for us sometime in March, likely. That is essentially a bond rating, and that is equal to a private person's credit rating. So the district receives a bond rating. The better the rating, the lower interest rates, the greater amount of issuance we can have. So COPS issuance likely happen in March or April. Next slide. It's a very rough timeline. We'll know more actually tomorrow. GBD, right, Mr. Molnar is coming in, so we'll have a better idea. Again, the board passes authorizing resolutions sometime in February, March. The Moody's trip, whether it's here in town or whether it's in Chicago, that will happen. And that is a very, very important presentation. You're not only putting the district its best foot forward, so to speak, but the entire community and the economic development, the demographics of the community, average incomes of the community, capacity for additional, millage. There's a lot that goes into the rating presentation with Moody's, and that will likely be mid-March to late March, and then we close the issue about 2 to 3 weeks after the COPs are set, the interest rates. Next slide. You want me to
Sure.
go for it?
Yep.
Recommendations for this month include asking the board to approve the regular meeting minutes of December 18th, the organizational meeting of January 8th, and the special meeting of last Tuesday, January 16th. The financials for December of 23 are exhibits 7A through 7D. Cash reconciliation, 2 pages, a financial summary called the FinSum report, 2 forecast reports, month-end forecast reports, and those are for general fund, and 016 emergency levy fund, and then a checklisting of all the AP and electronic checks issued in the month of December. Next. Appropriations changes are exhibit 7F, and there are 4 funds that I'm asking the board to increase appropriations. We already discussed permanent improvement. There's a new 018 principals account or local account, and that is for the grant called Soul to Soul, which you will be approving a donation or acknowledging a donation at the end of my recommendations. A grant of $5,326.34, which is a local nonprofit giving the district these grant funds to offer shoes to our students who have economic need. We have an increase in the auxiliary fund, the 401 fund, and if you recall, those are non-public funds that we receive on behalf of St. Joe's. An increase of $1,082.74. That represents a small sum of money that we had to send back to the state. And then an increase in the ARP ESSER 5079223 fund, which represents the amount that ARP ESSER must return in advances to the general fund. We have 2 then and now invoices, and then the donations that we just spoke about.
We have a motion for 7A through 7H. Teresa, second.
Second.
Amanda, any discussion?
I just have a question.
Any question? Go.
On the donation of the Soul to Soul, which is really a grant, you said that that was from the local chapter of that. So are you saying it's out of the Lorraine area, or is it from the headquarters from that perspective that we applied for that grant? The only reason I'm asking is because there's probably a lot more money available there if I know where it's coming from. If it's
So,
coming from the main office, we have more pull probably than we do with the local. I'm just asking.
Well, actually, the local chapter is closing down. And so we have participated with the local Soul to Soul. We've had a partnership with them for several years. They provided shoes for students at AJH and Nord alternating buildings. They are, since they are closing down, and we've been such an active partner with them, as they were closing their books, any remaining funds they've donated to us in order to purchase some vouchers for shoes for our students.
So it's no longer going to
It's
exist,
no
the
longer-
local.
Correct. The local is no longer going to exist, and so in December they contacted us and said, as we're closing our books, we have these funds left over, we would like to give them to your district. So,
So moving forward, what, the national, the main one with,
Or does it have to be a local? See, I don't know.
Right,
I've got to do
unclear.
some more investigation.
right, unclear. We've they had reached out to us several years ago, the local chapter had. We haven't had a whole lot of dealings with the national, just locally, so it would be something we would need to explore.
So this money is local. That's
This
what
money is local, yes.
Any other discussion? Question? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Gillis. Dr. Messer.
Aye.
Mr. Engel.
Aye.
Mrs. Wacholz. Mr. Zappa.
Superintendent's report, Mr. Knapp.
First, I want to say thank you to the Board of Education. January is School Board Recognition Month, so on behalf of our administration, community, parents, teachers, we want to thank you. Ohio School Board Association, the theme for the month is launching our next generation, which I think ties in nicely to we're going to do a strategic plan update, so that's going to be, I think, a good connection to the theme of the month. Also, we have certificates of appreciation from the Ohio School Board Association, which I'm going to pass out in a moment. We also have cupcakes to celebrate school board or school board recognition month, and also
And Teresa's birthday.
So audience, thank you for sticking around to the end. We have cupcakes for you.
Are we gonna do that now or after?
That's up to you. If you'd like to break for cupcakes now, I mean, the audience will kind of give you smiles, winks, or nods about what they'd like. But you're more than welcome to do whatever you like.
We'll do 5 minutes ish.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Thank you.
I'll get the cupcakes for us.
Thank you, Mr. Engel.
Thank you.
Okay, we got their fill, now we can start.
Not really, go ahead.
All right, so for my report, I brought David Connolly from Rockville Financial to give us an update on where we're at. I mean, Amy and I are also going to kind of chime in whenever we need to. I don't think there's a presentation. Dave's going to talk verbally, give an update. We're going to talk. If there are questions, I mean, that's what this is for. For questions, we'll all just kind of jump in and answer questions, but I'll turn it over to Dave right now to give an update of where we're at.
Good evening and Happy New Year to you guys. I haven't seen you since just toward the end of 2023. Fantastic start to the year. Amy got all the details out there. One of the things, first off, I'd like to say because the community voted to support the levy replacement, so I think that it's fair to say that it's nice to see that the community still supports the school district, and that's really, really important as we go forward. The second thing is that this part of this renewal or the replacement of the levy is for the purposes of borrowing money that you're going to use to improve school facilities for the kids. Because of the type of financing that you're using, that financing, the amount you borrow, is directly connected to what interest rates are. So back in November, interest rates were higher than they are now. So the estimate in November was that you could borrow 16.5 million, which was off the mark from what we were hoping for. Our meeting what day was it? Was it last week? Was Steve? Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Last
today's
week.
Monday. Last week, interest rates have come down, thank God, by about 0.5% since November. So as Amy pointed out, we're now at about 17 million, maybe a little more than 17 million for the project. But with that said, interest rates move every single day. We think they're going to continue to move down. Keep our fingers crossed, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee that interest rates are going to continue to move down, in which case 17 million could become 16.5 million. So we do have contingency in the event that happens. Amy already talked about looking at interest earnings as a possibility to help fill the gap if we need to fill the gap. But there are also other avenues that are available to us to allow us to meet the $17 million number if we have to meet that $17 million number. So for now, we're in great shape. Everything is looking very, very positive from that end. It doesn't hurt that the levy collections are a tad better than what we had projected, so that's good. The fact that we don't need to borrow money right away is also good, because Amy can accumulate some of those PI revenues, and they sort of can be there for, sort of building like a safety net, if you will, during the course of the year. So that's kind of like the big picture on the financing. More nuanced is the financing. So Amy passed around that thick book that she has been working on for hours and hours and hours and hours.
Cure for insomnia.
We are so, in our business, we get into our own minds and our own heads, and we never take the time to explain to you what you're doing. That thing that Amy is holding is a stock prospectus. You guys have invested in municipal funds or in stocks, and you've heard of a prospectus. This is a stock prospectus for a financing that you guys are doing. You guys are doing what is a regulated issuance of fixed income securities. Sometimes we call them bonds, sometimes we call them COPs, but underneath the fancy name is an actual issuance of securities that will be bought and sold by investors in the marketplace. Those investors have expectations of you all, especially of her, and those expectations are that we're truthful in the information we share with them about the school district's financial condition, and that all the things that we have done are legal, that we follow all the legal provisions. That document says that we've done all the things that we're supposed to do, that we've met all the legal requirements, that we've disclosed all of the financial things that needed to be disclosed, that we have not deliberately left anything out. And to the extent that document is incorrect, not only does the school district have liability, but I don't know if you guys are aware, but Amy is both professionally and personally liable for any misrepresentations, as is the board. Okay, so my job as your municipal advisor. Municipal advisor is a very specific job. That job is designated by the Securities Exchange Commission as your representative to make sure that you're protected. So I don't represent the lawyers, I don't represent the investment bank, I don't represent the investors. I represent you to make sure that everything that goes into that document, everything that's shown to investors, the process of selling those securities is done properly. So I'm kind of like the referee, watch the whole thing. So that title is called municipal advisor. You all have not hired me yet for that job. That will happen when the resolution comes to authorize the issuance, because it's an issuance-specific job. So there is no, you all can decide you're not going to do the financing, and then I wouldn't have that responsibility. So at the point in time that you do that's when you would hire me to do that responsibility. So that's job number one. Job number two is what you originally hired me for, and that's to develop a sustainability plan, a financial long-term sustainability plan in combination with Mike and Amy for the school district. And you all might remember we talked about TIF and how the TIF can come into play over the long term. To really simplify this, you all have about as much cash as this district has ever had in your general fund. In fact, it might be the highest it's ever been.
No.
It's not? How close?
It's come down both of the last 2 fiscal years. We've had deficit spending.
Okay.
So we're,
Within the last 2 years?
yes.
Okay, so within the last 2 years, we've had the most amount of money we've ever had. However, you just pointed out today, you're starting to draw that money down, right? You're in a position as a board, superintendent, and treasurer to ask yourself some questions relative to your taxpayers. And that is it possible for us to manage the cash that we have in such a way that you prolong the next time you need to ask for an operating levy? So in some cases, there are school districts in Ohio that have gone 20 years, 30 years without getting new operating money. And so part of my job is to see if there's a way for us to develop a plan, and working with Amy, that creates, if you all create as a priority, the desire to be financially sustainable, meaning delaying the need to do an operating levy in the future. So that process will begin hopefully next month. Well, I'll come back and start working with the board in a very workshop type of way to talk about not necessarily the 5-year forecast, but all of the things that tie to how much your taxpayers are paying in taxes to your school district. And I'm not sure if you all remember, at one point I showed you a table that showed the amount of taxes as a percent of income of your residents and what they pay. You all are one of the lowest cost school districts in this entire region. I mean, it's like 30 districts. So that's not a bad place to be, but you shouldn't let that be an accidental. You should try to say, it's a goal for us. A goal for us is to be one of the lowest cost districts in this particular region, and not only that, provide great service. Provide what the students need, the children need from an educational perspective, safety, facilities, the whole gamut. So my responsibility is to create a process for us to go through that over the next 12 months. And at the end, have kind of like what I call guidelines or kind of a direction, a big picture direction that's with input from the board as to how you accomplish that. And then hopefully you can turn that into some form of a policy, what I call a taxation policy, that will act as a document that governs your approach to taxing your residents for the next 50 years. So that's how this all kind of weaves together. But I wanted to, it's been a while since we've had we started out and then we were like, oh wow, we could do this replacement levy. And then we took off working on the replacement levy and then kind of didn't quite get to this thing. So this is really the key thing. This is the thing that we should do. And as a part of that, obviously, address other issues down the road that might happen relative to facilities and so forth. So I'll stop there. Questions?
You have a question?
I have lots of questions, but I don't know what to ask, so
Well,
I'm just gonna wait and see how the process.
Try to ask it, and then I'm pretty good at like keep.
already opened it up. I just need to see how it all goes.
Yeah.
This is not my area, and I'll be very honest, this is not my area, so I just.
It's actually no one's area. I
It's
am
like
like,
it's your area.
do you know how many of me there are in the world? Very few. Did you finish up?
No, I
Oh,
don't.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
As it relates to the municipal advisor, you mentioned if there's misrepresentation, me as well as the board is liable or responsible. With you as our municipal advisor, does that take the burden off of us?
No, it just means that you've got somebody looking out for you relative to that.
I'm saying if there's wrongdoing, does it go to you or does it come back to
It
us?
still comes to you, but my job is to try to keep you from doing wrong. So here's an example of doing wrong, and it can happen both innocently or on purpose. Have you guys have ever heard the phrase insider trading? Okay, insider trading is when a person on the inside says something that someone else can find out about that the rest of the universe doesn't know. So we're creating securities that will be bought and sold by investors. Those investors make a profit from buying and selling those securities. Who you talk to in your personal life may have a connection to someone related to the buying and selling of those securities and might know something that we are working on internally that the rest of the world doesn't know about. So if you accidentally say to a buddy, hey, we're doing this and we're thinking about this, it could have an impact on the price of those securities. And if it tracks back, you can be liable for that. So part of my responsibility, first off, is to tell you, don't talk about it. No posts, no social media. Anything that we're doing in-house, especially when we begin to start talking about how to structure the transaction, like for example, the rating is a great example. Let's say we're in the process of working on the rating. Now you already have bonds outstanding, so there are investors that have your bonds that are buying and selling them as we speak. Those bonds have a rating associated with it. If we meet with the rating agency and that rating agency hints to us that they think we're going to downgrade us or upgrade us, it's possible we could just kind of like mention that to you internally, but if it isn't published yet, if that information gets out, someone who owns your existing securities can sell those and make a profit, right? Or at least stave off a loss if they know that the rating is going to go down. So one part of my responsibility is to make sure we have those discussions, that you guys know what your safeguards are.
I just have one more.
Yeah.
You mentioned, well, as I understand, I think we understand there's two roles here. Financial planning
Consulting. Yeah, planning or consulting. Yeah.
and municipal advisor.
Right.
So from our standpoint, as far as, is that contracted? Are we contracted with you, and what's the cost of each?
So you're currently contracted with me for the planning, the financial plan, which is a year contract, so 12 months, literally 365 days. You got me, right? If you want me or not. The municipal advisor, we do not have a contract at this time because there is no official securities at this time. That the securities only become official once you all authorize them, and that's a legislative act. Even though we have the official statement, it's just paper until you pass the resolution saying we are hereby going to do this. At that point, you would hire me, and then I would become officially responsible as your municipal advisor. And that's so my 1 year contract is $40,000, and then for municipal advisor, it's $1 per thousand if it's financed, which if it's a $17 million issue, it's $17,000. And that's less than 10% of all the fees that you pay to do the cops issue. I'm the cheapest, the lowest cost piece of the cops issue.
And that's not by the year, that's by the project.
It's by the amount. The
So
size.
as far as the term.
Right,
It would
yeah,
be
so it
project.
starts when we start the work, and you pay me from the financing at closing.
We will not pay David Conley or Rockville Financially directly for municipal advisory services. Those are considered costs of issuance.
Comes
So
right out.
bond counsel, underwriter, printing, and all those ancillary costs, and the municipal advisor come out of the proceeds.
I know you got a good one in there, you're just holding
Morgan?
back.
Just
There's
one,
also
come
up
on.
there.
Oh, it was
About the
probably
sa-
like what you were saying about like, us being liable or whatever.
Yeah.
If, for example, a document is beautiful and I know you never really hard and it means almost nothing to me because I don't know how to read it. So I wouldn't know how to approve that because that's not my area to know. So I was just gonna say like, okay, so is that you then who goes through it and says, this is what it says, so that I understand it.
So what about
so I
us?
can
One of the things that I think I just alluded to or inferred earlier is that there's a large team that goes into the production of the, offering circular. If you're issuing bonds, it's called an official statement. It's the same thing, it's a prospectus. We have bond counsel, and that is Mike Sharp from Squires in Cleveland. Rick Maniloff and Mike Sharp have long been bond counsel for Amherst. David is municipal advisor for the offering. He has a long-standing relationship the entire time Steve was here, correct? So about 15, 16 years perhaps,
Yeah.
relationship. I think that then that we have Stiefel Nicholas is the underwriter, public finance company. It is often seen that the municipal advisor looks out for the district, where the underwriter looks out for the investor. I've worked with Stiefel in multiple districts for 15 plus years. I don't think that that's just the case, right? I think we have a team that is going to look out for the district. That's bond counsel, underwriter, and advisor, municipal advisor. And then, of course, we have ourselves as part of the team. And then this document, it's color coded. I think if you guys leaf through it, you can see that it was color coded. And there are different areas for the district to complete, for myself to complete. There are areas for the county auditor to complete. Anything with millage and taxes and collections and all of that. Things about economic development, those are going to be produced from the county auditor. The underwriter is going to have areas, Rockville Financial and or Stiefel will have areas to complete it, and then of course Mike Sharp, bond counsel. So we have a team that I think a very strong team, and we've worked with all parties in the team previously. So there really are no new faces in this team for this debt issuance.
And when we did this for Powers, we had no issues. I mean, we sailed through it. I mean, it's time consuming, as you've heard, but we sailed through it and we had no concerns whatsoever. And David spearheaded that for us as well. So I don't think any of us need to worry about the process. We just need to make sure that we don't do something we shouldn't do. So the best thing we can do is just listen to what they tell us.
And my name is all over this document, so
And you sign
understand, and I sign it. So understand, it is really important to me that it's correct and accurate and represents Amherst Exempted Village School District.
And it'll be Amy and Mike, along with David, that presents this. Sometimes the board president has to be there as well.
Yeah, the board president has to sign the official circular as well, so.
So you really
So two of you are the ones signing, but more to your point, there are a lot of people that are reading and making sure that everything lines up through the whole process. So you've got a good team. You've got a very, very good team, and she's incredible. So.
For sure. Any other comments? Thank you, Dave.
All right,
Thanks for making
you
it.
guys.
Appreciate
Now I'll grab
that.
Just grab that.
Yes, you
So big picture real quick is I guess a larger picture is what we've started to develop and plan back in June, passed in July, what was approved in November, is coming to fruition and is exactly as planned so far, right? So the revenue we expected is right on target and a little more than we expected. The debt issuance we may do seems to be right on target where we think, and as I worked with our architects and all of the projects behind the scenes, again, what we've approved through GPD and what they predict costs will be for all the projects is also right in line with that 17 million. So everything that we've thought or planned out is right on track, exactly how it should. Doesn't mean that there could costs come up. Doesn't mean interest rates could, for some reason, skyrocket. But it seems like everything that we've worked and planned for is coming right on track. So that's a good thing.
Mike, talk about the RFQ.
Okay, so real quick, a couple things. We approved the GPD documents and approved them to oversee the projects. I mentioned last month that the costs that they've built in are all of the construction costs so far, but their estimations also included their architectural fees and if we were to go with the construction manager at risk, right? Which I think we all agree is important to have. Someone who, again, looks out for us when we do these projects. And so one of the things that we have to do is we have to put out an RFQ, or a request for qualifications, to basically announce that we're looking for someone to be that lead role for us. We have asked a local lawyer, Ronnie Kumbala, to start producing those documents. We've connected him with GPD and Aaron Rodabaugh to do that. And so he has kind of a draft going with that he sent to us today. We also encouraged him to send it to Aaron to look over as well, because it really need to explain the project itself and in the request for qualifications for construction manager risk. So, and I'm meeting with GPD tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to review all the projects, which include transportation facility, the athletic upgrades, and the special education restroom upgrade here at Steele. So we're going to review all those tomorrow. We have, again, over the years talked about transportation. We have kind of a little bit of a draft of what we'd like to see. This is, again, touching base on all of those to get information to Aaron so he can go back and I think get kind of like real plans, designs, drawings to come back, hopefully within like a month. When that happens, that's when we'll ask the board to review them. We'll talk to transportation, have them look at it, the mechanic, right? Or some of our coaches to review those, to then go back and look at the plans again, and then come back maybe around March to have the final plans ready to go. The good news about that for the time frame is also, again, we're not in a rush to issue the debt now. So as long as we're monitoring interest rates and David and Amy and the whole financial team says, hey, we're good, we're looking like March, April is going to be totally fine, the more we can get done ahead of time to know what the actual costs are going to be, the easier it's going to be to say, hey, this is the debt we're going for, and we kind of know really the ballpark. As I mentioned last week or two, GPD has already sent people out to check the sites for both Dewey Road and here at the stadium. So they're looking at all the soil samples. So again, the farther we go along with that process before we act to issue debt or go for those bonds, the more we know about the financial aspect and the cost of it, I think that's going to be a good thing. So
The timing of the debt issuance really is going to coincide with when the board approves a contract with the construction manager at risk, right? So as the RFQs come in, let's just say in the March timeframe, and a construction manager at risk is selected, they're going to produce a proposal for their services. And then as schematic design and design documents are prepared from the architect engineering firm, GPD, then there will be a guaranteed maximum price that the construction manager offers the board for the projects. There will be a GMP for the transportation center, there will be a GMP for the athletic facilities upgrades proposal, and then that timing, it really is telling us when we need to issue the debt, so that we can get the proceeds, so that the board can certify contracts. So we have the money in collection or in our coffers to produce an encumbrance to pay for the guaranteed maximum price contract.
But the project that we're going to do initially has nothing to do with anything that they're talking about, which is the hall and the bathrooms. So they are going to review that as part of this, but it's not part of this whole thing. So keep that in the back of your minds, because I think that some people may have that infused right now. Because he said that he was going to review that from that perspective. But that project, we've already said we were going to move forward with. It has nothing to do with the funding that these guys are talking about. It's just the athletic and the transportation center. And I guess my question on top of that would be, in the athletic things, do we have a summary sheet of what is going to be part of that proposal? Because I know that there were some meetings and some conversations that you had had since it has passed, but I don't know that I'm aware of what's on that list from that perspective. Is there a summary of that we could possibly get in advance of that, so that when we get the plans, we would kind of know to be able to compare? We kind of know what transportation is because we've looked at it multitudes of times through this process. But I don't know everything that was agreed upon or decided upon that should be part of the athletic situation.
The best list, if you want to look right now, is the document from GPD last month that you approved, which outlines kind of the timeframes and outlines all the pieces, parts of those. There's a summary on there. It talks about tennis courts with addition of pickleball. It talks about resurfacing or replacing the track. So, but I can get you that, and we can go over that if you like.
I would like that as well.
I do remember what you're talking about.
I do too, but I'd like to have them.
Sure.
But nothing has changed on that list, because you were still having some of those meetings when we did that, or when you said that.
Yeah, no coach, no principal, administrator, board member, no one has added or subtracted things to that list. Now, again, as we move forward, sure, something could come up. For example, the board is very interested in the past of making sure that there's enough new storage for maintenance, some of our athletic facilities, and there's a desire from the board members to kind of reduce some of the small outbuildings at the stadium, right?
Yes.
So for
Yes.
example, we may down the path find out the board's like, you know what, I want to make sure we have enough, maybe we want to add another small storage shed somewhere, right? That's something that down the pike could actually come, but as of right now, yeah, no coach, athletic director, superintendent, treasurer, board member has added or subtracted anything from that list. But again, we can all, those things probably will come up.
Sure.
If there's something.
Okay, I just don't,
Yep.
I don't recall
Yeah.
seeing that
Okay,
list,
see.
but I'm sure I did, but
Yeah.
I just don't recall off the top of my head.
You'll send it to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I still have another question.
Okay.
Not,
Go for it. Paybacks.
Yeah.
in reviewing the document that you sent today regarding the project that's going to happen in Steel, GPD has a cost on there to look at that again. They've already designed that once. Could I have an explanation as to why the cost is so much, since a lot of that work has already been done for part of that? It's not a lot, but it's $15,000, I think, $10,000 or $15,000, in addition to what they've already done. What is the explanation for that?
I'll meet with GP tomorrow. I can get you an explanation from them directly.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we had a master plan when we were going to do that before, and then it was too expensive, so we chucked that out of the plan. So my question is it because we're doing something different, or why is there such a large sum of money needed to redevelop or redesign that? Because I think the only thing that we added was the restrooms from that perspective. Because we weren't going to do the restrooms to the extent that we're doing them now in the initial plan. Is that correct?
Correct. And
You're just putting a restroom in that classroom.
I know we always have that.
Well, there's going to be a bathroom in there still, but we've added the bathrooms that
Oh,
the
they
lesser
have all-
ones
oh, oh,
redone.
okay, yeah. Yeah, we gotta talk about that. Let's see, that's a change.
okay, because I know there probably were some changes from
And I
like
just like to have an explanation, why it's going to cost another $10,000 or $15,000. Okay. I have no further questions.
He asked mine, so.
You have it?
No, I did, but he asked me, so I'm good.
Anyone else? Okay, any administrative committee reports?
So we are very excited. Mike and I are going to share with the board a update on our strategic plan. So as you all know, we spent the fall, we met with a total of 4 times in meetings that were facilitated by the Ohio School Board Association. And
finally, this is like the final reveal of the culmination of all of that work that was done during those 4 meetings. So during those 4 meetings, we talked about our district vision, our district mission, generated our value statements, but we also came up with 5 different goals. So we're going to start off by talking about the vision, mission, and values.
Right. Board, as you were aware, because you were all involved in the process, one of the main points we came out with the entire team was a new vision, and that is the Amherst Central Schools is a community of excellence. Through all of the discussion that you were part of, everyone felt like we have a phenomenal community with phenomenal teachers and staff members and board members and very supportive. In fact, I'll share I'll remind all of you and share, I guess, publicly. One of the things that the House School Board group did a survey of our community. Remember when we started strategic planning, and that was in the fall, which, quite honestly, was during negotiations, and there was some tension going on in the district. Well, as you all know from working with them and seeing the results of that, which I'll share with the community, our scores for how our community views our staff, our teachers, our board, our administrators, they consistently said we had some of the highest ratings that they have seen, and they go and they help perform these strategic planning with multiple school districts every single year for the last 20 years. So it was just encouraging that our community, with their input to us, responded just how our small committee felt, which was we are an amazing school district and an amazing community. We are special. And so that's where the vision really, I think, came from, is that just we are a community of excellence. Not just a school district, but all of us from every single student, parent, staff member involved.
And part of that, one of the greatest things about that survey that they did was they commented on how high our engagement rate was with that survey. And that we had some more responses than they've seen in a lot of other districts that they've worked with. And so the fact that the community feels so invested and so a part of the schools was really energizing for the group as well.
Now again, this vision was going to be our vision moving forward, but as you all are aware, as we move on in the next couple of years, that strategic plan can change in 3 to 5 years, which could include the vision and mission, right? But it's something that we do want to have be a solid foundation moving forward for at least a couple of years. Next, we'll go to the mission. We developed a new mission statement. I think most people can't really recite our current mission statement off the top of their head.
There were a lot of words in our other mission statement.
And as you're aware, this was something that was really done within almost the first draft, and it didn't change because the entire committee thought it was that good. So I'm just going to read it out loud because I think it is phenomenal. The mission of the Amherst Schools is to educate, equip, and empower all students to choose their path and make a positive impact in our community and beyond. And so, from all the things we talked about, I think it's a beautiful mission. I think it's exactly why we're here. And I think it speaks to, again, the board, the staff, parents, we're all in it together as one team. I think that's an excellent mission statement moving forward. Also, we came up with some core values, which I don't think we ever really had before, but our core values, we kind of came up as a team with dozens and dozens of what we're about in Amherst, and in so many of these core values were shared by all the participants, right? So, first things first is students first was a core value that, again, OSBA had said they had never seen before. Some of these you'll see in many different districts. Students first is a core value they've never really seen before. They thought it was excellent. Also, community focused. I think we're all aware that schools are Amherst, and Amherst is the school, so we're always been part of it. Common pride was, of course, very important for everyone. And then opportunity driven, which also is not very common, but we feel like that's, again, why we're here. We're here to make sure that all students have opportunities, and that's what we're here to provide them. So those are the core values that we came up with our strategic planning committee. Sarah, you want to talk about the goals we have?
Yes, I do, Mr. Molnar. Thank you. So as we wanted to keep our district goals to 3 to 5, and I think we came up with 5 goals that are very solid and are gonna help continue to move our district forward. The first one focuses on community connections, and so that goal, the Amherst schools will maintain consistent communication to strengthen relationships with businesses and citizens and to create an engaged community. The next one being financial stability. The Amherst schools will ensure financial stability through prudent spending and strategic budgeting to maximize students' educational experience in order for students to reach their full potential. This one was beautifully drafted in collaboration with our own CFO and treasurer, Ms. Amy Giuffredo. The next one, retention and recruitment. This one focuses on our staffing, and so the Amherst schools will attract, retain, and support the highest quality staff to address the diverse needs of our school district. Quality facilities. The Amherst schools will enhance, maintain, and develop facilities and spaces that meet the academic and extracurricular needs of all stakeholders through a master plan. And then finally, student services and programs. The Amherst schools will promote and implement high-quality programs and services to improve the physical, social, emotional, and academic well-being of all students by providing progressive educational opportunities. And so what's going to happen with these 5 goals is pending your approval of the strategic plan, is we have a meeting set up with our district leadership team. It's going to be on February 15th. And with that district leadership team, we will start to create action teams to focus on each of these target areas and each of these goals to use the strategies that were developed in the strategic planning meeting, core meeting, to kind of help make the plan work and evolve and actually be something that is part of aligning our district-wide initiatives. But none of that could have been done without our strategic planning committee, of which all of you were members. We also had several parents and community members, including Chief Coffin. We had several others that are listed there. We've got parents, we've got business owners, we have a number of administration and staff, and of those administrators and staff, many of them also served as some are Amherst alumni, some are parents in the community, some also own businesses in the community or are involved in different ways within our community. So there was a lot of diverse opinions on the committee, and so I think we really enjoyed working through the process. There was a lot of engaging conversation, and I can't thank all of you and all the members of the committee enough, because I'm really excited about this plan and starting to do the work on this plan. Any questions?
Slides,
Which ones?
copy of this.
Yes. And actually, you will have, and it might be in the, is it in the board folder?
It was attached, we released it, there was an attachment to the board agenda with a 2-page flyer with all this information on it. That will also go public.
Once you've approved this, and I can email all of that to you as well.
So I do have just a comment, a question. I'm sorry, Mark. Okay? See, sometimes
Floor's
I don't
yours.
have all these answers.
Floor's yours.
Okay. So this is being released tomorrow, or today it was released. But these are the new mission statement, vision statement.
This is the first showing of
But
it.
I'm saying it's going to be.
It will be, yes.
It's going to be announced via
Both of
social
us.
media, through whatever, however you're going to do that. But there's not going to be a public meeting where we're going to do this, other than through.
There's not going to be a public meeting to go over all of this. What we'll do is throughout the year, we'll give updates here at board meetings.
So how is the staff going to be aware at every level that this is now the focus?
So part of the work of the district leadership team is to then, as we're working and having conversations at a district level, to then take it down to their buildings, and then through Mike's weekly communications and through our building administration, we'll be making sure that it's communicated throughout the district.
Also Friday, we have a a meeting scheduled with Rachel Wellington, maybe create a video for staff. So
Yes, we're gonna make
we're
a
gonna try
video.
to work on that.
So each building does that, or each department does that, because sometimes it won't be just the building, each department does that. There's not one specific day that that's all going to happen. So is it going to happen at the junior high tomorrow, and then it's going to happen at the high school next week? I personally think there needs to be a timeline that is all announced and released at the exact same time to everybody, so that one building's not saying, I don't know anything about it,
Sure.
and the other building's saying, oh, what are you talking about? I don't know anything about this because I don't even remember this because there was so much going on when all this was happening. So I just think that before we make this document the living document that we're following, which is ready to happen right now from those values and mission statement, that would just be my thoughts, that we need to make sure that it's strategically thought how it's going to be announced to the team on staff, as well as to the general public, because the media is here tonight. It could be released tomorrow from that perspective. So we need to make sure that if it comes out and we haven't told internally that we've done that, I would have concerns. That's just my own personal comment on that. You can take it however you like.
Well, I was expecting when you talk to Rachel, you guys are gonna have like a rollout plan or.
Yeah, we're gonna roll it out internally with the staff first. That's why we're meeting on Friday to start developing that and actually maybe do some recordings and stuff, and then take it public after that.
Maybe we should ask the media not to release
Would
it.
that
So-
be-
Place it on an embargo.
Yeah, could you wait till you hear from Michael
Staff meeting
to
or
do that?
administrative meeting?
Yeah,
Well,
just wrote that in
because-
there,
yeah,
embargo.
Because there's different, Mark had a good question, would it be done like a staff meeting? We don't have district-wide meetings, right? So that's why we're probably gonna create a video, so everyone can see at the same time, and then we can follow up by going to the building leadership team or next staff meeting to review and go over it that way as well. Right? So it'd be everyone would get at the same time, then we can bring it to them individually for the building,
When's the next in-service?
not till March.
Not till March.
Anything else?
And the community will know, like through your district newsletters and.
Correct, or it could also be another video that we create to launch to the community as well.
But
He's
some
very
people will
excited
know
about
today if
videos.
they're watching it on the street.
Right.
Sure,
Yes.
it's first step is board approval, so.
Yes. This is checking the first box today. Any other
Anything else?
questions?
Anything else?
Yeah, so we were gonna talk about today, I guess, future, board involvement and whatnot. So I know we talked about it at our design meeting last week,
Mhm.
but in terms of, is there gonna be like the facilities committee, you two are on the facilities committee, is there gonna be something like that? Because this plan is not gonna be static,
No. So when we meet with the district leadership team, we'll be coming up with those core action teams. And the core action teams may be soliciting input from board members or from community members as far as implementing the strategies and the action items. And then the goal is throughout the year to have those action teams provide updates to the board as far as where we are with those things. And so that way, if there are goals that we need to tweak and change along the way, we can absolutely do that.
And I would say publicly too, as you look at those 5 goal areas, if there is something that you want us to be possibly in that focus. So like we go to district leadership team, and we're kind of working on those action steps, because how we get to those and what we do under each one, there's going to be multiple different ways and actions that we do. And then from there, as OSBA said, you may, or that action team may create another sub-action team to address or work on that one specific goal. Or maybe it's Human Resources Director Dave O'Delly has to work specifically on that, right? Right? So once we develop action teams, there may be additional teams or additional things that board members, possibly community members, possibly some staff members could be on. Because again, when we talked to OSBA, they were pretty specific of, now's not really the time for I guess, more ideas. It's who can be on those teams to get the work done, right? You can't keep having tons of people at different meetings to talk about things. It has to be, once you have a strategy or action step in place, okay, who's going to get that done? And having another committee, another big committee might not be the most efficient way to do that. So feel free to consider these goals and think about them, and if there's something that you think you definitely would want us to consider being part of, maybe an action step or something, please send it our way.
Oh, yeah, I've seen stuff already. Professional development and all that stuff.
Anyone else? Rex?
Anything else, Rex? Sure.
I have no further comment. Mr. President.
Hearing none, do I have a motion to
So-
adopt 9A? Teresa, second?
So moved. Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Gillis. Mr. Engel.
Aye.
Dr. Messer. Mrs. Wackels. Mr. Zedman.
Mr. Engel. You are,
I'm up.
you
You
are
could
up.
quit, would you?
Listen to you. The JBS. JBS held their meeting last Thursday for the first board meeting of the year. We have 2 new board members from Firelands and from Avon Lake. Everyone else came back, but those 2 people are new board members the whole way around. So we have a couple changes there. Our big conversation was we approved some dollars for GPD to do study that they're in the process of doing because of the 3 programs I told you about, the grant, the nursing program, the truck driving program. So we had to get some additional funding approved so that we could get the criteria done so that we could apply for those grants so that we would know exactly what's going to be on the facility side of that we need to do. So we had a good discussion about that and approved that. We also put closure to the book issue that has been out there since the fall. The administration and the leadership team came back with a statement and their recommendation that the book would stay in place from that perspective. And there was a whole a whole statement from Dr. Fairclough regarding that. And then there was still some discussion with the board. There was some action that we took with the board. And as I'm sure you've read or seen or saw somewhere, that the book will not leave the curriculum of the JVs. It will be, doesn't mean it will always be taught, but it will not leave the curriculum from the JVs. So I appreciate everyone who's been touched by that, because it was an Amherst parent that had the concern. But I appreciate everyone who has listened to her, who has stood by, and as I publicly stated at that meeting, I voted the way that I felt was in the best interest of what I had heard back from the community, and I just want that to be known that I represented the Amherst community, not necessarily the way that parent felt it should be, but absolutely the way that the majority of the Amherst community has spoken to me. If you have any questions about that, anything at the JBS, I'll be glad to do that. We did pull out the carpeting in the entranceway also over break. That was an emergency thing from some water situation. There will be no longer carpeting when you walk into the JBS in the entrance. It's a different place with type of flooring, and that is a $92,000 expenditure, just so you're aware.
Wow.
Okay?
Really replacement.
It was, yeah, some type of flooring, yeah. But that was a GTV recommendation as well. Okay? We will be having a board retreat, which we normally do in January or February, just because we get new board members. And we can get new board members every year based on the time frame because they're staggered to their term. So we will be doing that. We're probably going to be doing it on an evening versus a Saturday this time. And it will be, I think, facilitated by OSBA. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Engel. Dr. Messer.
All right, legislative update. Next slide, please. So there's been much house activity in the past month or two. I'll try to quickly go through some of the House bills. So first up, House Bill 344, a lot of financial stuff. So eliminates the replacement property tax levies and makes changes to laws regarding property tax valuation complaints, counter complaints, and appeals. Does Amy have any comments on that one, or?
Additional public school reverse legislation here showcased in House Bill 344.
And next, House Bill 348 establishes pilot programs to increase student attendance and graduation rates through financial rewards and other incentives. So they've heard testimony on those two. House Bill 339 establishes the non-charter educational savings account program. Another interesting one for students enrolling in non-charter, non-public schools. Some more voucher things. And then House Bill 101 modifies law regarding village dissolution and makes several education-related budget corrections. So some dealing with like daycare, preschool. There's one on JVS where different JVS districts where they bumped it from 5% to 10%. There was a type error that they had to correct. So that's House Bill 101 addresses those things. Next slide, please. This is the very interesting one. So House Bill 68, everyone probably heard in the news that Governor DeWine, he did veto that, but at least the House so far by a 65-28 vote voted to override that veto, and now it's headed to the Senate, and the Senate is slated to consider overriding as well on the 24th of this month, and they'll need 20 votes to do that, override the governor's veto. And then House Bill 183, this one, so I had a question on the general use bathrooms because they are looking at, making more, I guess, regulations regarding single sex bathroom access in primary and secondary schools and I guess public university and colleges. So the big thing, it prohibits schools and universities from constructing or maintaining a multi-use, multi-gender restroom. So I contacted our USBA legislative people, so waiting to hear back on that. But we were talking around a year ago about those, individual stalls. So that we may have to rethink that if this goes through. But I'm looking for more guidance from them to see more of what they say about that. And then it also aligns this bill's definition for biological sex as defined in House Bill 68. So it's your, I guess, sex assigned at birth. Next slide, please. And a little bit of Senate activities. So Senate Bill 208 will require city, exempted village, or local school districts to include in its open enrollment policy an exception for military children. And Senate Bill 91 was just signed into law, and it will take effect in March of this year. It makes changes to laws regarding fraud, waste, and abuse of public funds. Next slide, please. In some news with the Department of Education and Workforce, so they just held one of their first public meetings with the new director, Stephen B. Dacton, which they looked at all the information the DO has about newer existing initiatives, any change to state or federal law that affects DO or education stakeholders, and Any administrative rule the director of the DO intends to adopt, amend, or rescind. And they selected, the DO selected American Institute of Research to conduct a study on the needs of economically disadvantaged children in Ohio and costs of supporting the students. Next slide, please. And then the State Board of Education. So now there's talk of moving them from Columbus to Reynoldsburg, which they, the State Board unanimously passed opposing this move, citing state's constitution that directs the board to have headquarters in the seat of government, so that would be Columbus. So right now they're fighting that, and they will have the director of the Department of Administrative Services to explain the reasoning behind this move. So a lot going on there. And then I read an article, I didn't put it up there, but they were talking about funding, I guess funding for State Board of Education employees that, I don't want to say getting cut, but how the budgeting is going, they may not have money to pay for some people. So you have to find that article, but I didn't put it up there because I didn't have the exact source. So I don't want to put stuff up there. I don't have the source. So that's the end of that portion. And then the next slide is just some upcoming events and training from OSBA that we can all partake in if we so choose. A lot of cyber law updates and coffee chats and so. And some of these bills will have to really keep a close eye on with bathroom remodels and some of these field trips coming up, because some of the language in the proposed legislation is kind of generalized. So one of them is about female students can't share overnight accommodations with male students. So that's very general, like well, they don't anyway. So I don't know what that means, but anyway, so just trying to get more guidance. But a lot of people, things are very general right now. So until they specify what they need.
School allows that now.
What I'm saying about the bathrooms, because those separate stall, open concept bathrooms are pretty.
That comes at a good time, meeting with.
Yeah, I don't know how they can possibly
I
tell.
don't think that's the same thing, I think they're needing
School
something
or
else, I think they need like a room in Boys and Girls Club building or, I don't know.
I thought it was interesting on the drawing that you sent us today.
Yeah.
He actually has boys on
Boys
one
and
side
girls.
and girls on the other side with those individual stalls.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he may have some insight to that
Yeah, that's
from that perspective, so that it isn't, a boy can't be here and a girl can't be there. You've got gender on this side and this gender on that side. I don't know, because I found that interesting that there was a boy side and a girl side to that.
Yeah, because to me, if it's a, totally separated, closed off stall.
Yeah, you wouldn't have needed that, I
Yeah,
don't think.
yeah. It's
So
like,
I don't
why
know.
have
I was
that
just
cost if we're still separated?
I also thought the possibility too is that, that there's something he has to do as far as numbers, probably that, if there's more girls restrooms. So that might be just a way to label it, make sure you have the right
It
number.
might be,
So I'll check with
there's
her.
might maybe more
Right.
female than there are male.
So that was my question in the email today, like, is this what we have currently, or is this like kind of the ideas we've been tossing around with bathrooms? This thing.
You'll find out tomorrow.
None?
Yeah,
Any questions for Dr. Messer?
I have questions.
Personnel recommendation?
If you've had a chance to look at these, I'm going to go through them real quickly though. So what you have before you is item A are 2 resignations, item B is a probationary contract, item C is substitutes, item D are 2 limited contracts going from probationary to limited, we've made their 60 days. Item E and F are 2 leave of absences we're going to approve, item G are 2 salary advancements due to education, item H are 2 student workers for the Common Slide program, And item I is just a revised stipend amount. So I'd like the board to approve items 10A through 10I.
So moved.
Any questions? Discussion? Hearing none, call the roll. I do, I do. Aye.
Yes.
What district security compliance manager, what does he actually do?
Yeah, so Matt is the one who's been involved in all of the, with them, has been the one in leading all of the cybersecurity, all the security things that we've been doing the last year or so. Matt's been like the lead person on that. He's also like, helps Amy with insurance and all those items that go along with all of the security things that we've had going on with compliance.
Physical security and
Physical
cyber
security,
environment
cybersecurity.
security as well. So it's physical safety and security and the cyber environment safety and security.
Okay. Okay. No other questions? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Gillis. Aye. Mrs. Wackels. Aye. Mr. Engel. Dr. Messer. Aye. Mr. Zappa.
Aye. Educational recommendations?
Yeah, item A had 2 overnight trips, again, both funded by those groups and not funded by the general fund of the district at all. Item B is our memorandum of understanding with Lorraine County Community College. Item C is our resolution to authorize paper testing for 3rd grade ELA. And item D is our agreement with our internships and field experiences with Ashland University.
So moved.
Discussion?
Question, go ahead.
For C, I know the attachment, we all had, because that's only we actually have to sign. For the paper test for the 3rd grade, for whatever reason, when I was looking at the actual like document that was attached in our folder, it looked like something that we all had to like take part of. That wasn't
I'll check with it.
I don't
You can
think
require
we're
just-
allowed to do that.
I don't think we have to sign that,
Okay.
I saw that too.
We
Yeah,
have
we
to
each
pass
one
it.
don't have to do that,
okay.
we're doing that now. But my question on that, item C was, is it all paper or do they have a choice?
So
It's all paper.
for just, yes, so.
That's what I thought,
Yeah.
because we did that last year because we found they tested better with all paper at that level than they did electronic.
Now, yes, but for next year though, the 3rd grade determined that they believe students do better electronically for the math. So next year is a little bit of a change. Instead of paper for both, the 3rd grade teachers believe that ELA paper's best, which is what you're approving, and they believe that math, probably with the online, manipulatives and things they could use, it's better for kids with math. So again, we're letting teachers kind of select what they think is best for kids to perform.
And then I have one more question, to the President. The cheerleading contract, the approval of that, are they flying or are they going by bus? That was not completed.
They're flying.
Because it did not say how they were going, where the other one did say they were going by bus. So I was just curious whether they were flying
They're
or
flying.
they were busing. Okay. I assumed that they were probably flying since it was so few of them. Okay.
And then for C as well, I think it said like Ohio Department of Education, do we need to change that? Department of Education.
I'm not sure, that wasn't generated for my department. I
Oh,
can look into
okay.
it for you. I can look into it.
If you want to make a quick motion that if we need to change it to do, right, that might have been an oversight as far as, if that's a resolution we do every year,
Change it.
the change of the name of the department, yeah, so if you want to make it verbal, I think.
Second.
Wait a minute, you got something already on the floor, you
Yeah,
can't do that.
So we gotta exclude
You
C?
can't do
Yeah.
that, you
We have
cannot
to
do that.
exclude C?
You've got a motion on the floor, so you have to deal with the motion, or table that motion, take that motion, and then go back and do
I
that.
wanna
Or you can
table
just
my motion.
amend, you can just amend the,
I'll
you can
amend
just
the
amend
motion.
the motion.
I'll
C.
amend the motion that if we need to change the name, we can do so.
Yeah.
And you
Second.
said that? Yes.
Any other?
So you got, you got that?
Got that?
Huh?
Thank you.
Yeah, you got that motion on the floor, yeah, can't do that. We'd get in trouble.
So let's take a roll call on this motion to change
A through D?
No.
C.
A or C?
Just
Okay.
C.
All we're taking is motion on is to change the motion. We're taking a roll call to change the motion.
Okay, call the roll. For C.
Mrs. Gillis. Aye. Mrs. Wackels. Mr. Engel.
Aye.
Dr. Messer. Mr. Zappa.
Aye. No.
I'll make a motion.
Teresa, we're good. Any discussion on A, B, and D? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mrs. Gillis. Aye. Mrs. Wackels. Mr. Engel.
Aye.
Dr. Messer. Aye. Mr. Zappa.
Aye.
But you excluded C on that.
He
You
did.
You,
He did.
you excluded C on
I
that, so we need to have a motion
So I'll
now
make
to
a
do that,
motion for
because
C.
he excluded C. He said A, B, and D.
He did say that.
Yeah.
So
You
we
started-
amended C, would have to vote
We
on
still
it.
have to vote on it, but you didn't include it in that motion.
So I just make a motion.
I'm sorry
for
that I,
C. No, it's okay, I heard him say it too.
Right.
When it's
That's all right.
so we just need a motion on
Yes.
C, because he
to
excluded.
adopt, right? To adopt C.
Yeah, to vote, yeah.
So it was myself and,
Yes. Same over.
aye.
Do that again. Second. All right.
Roll call.
Mrs. Gillis.
Aye.
Mrs. Wackels. Mr. Engel.
Aye.
Dr. Messer. Mr. Zappa.
Aye. Thank you, man. Business recommendation.
Yeah, just two items, the GPD group, proposal for the architectural changes to the restroom and special education project here at Steele. And then also the second one is for a change order that goes back to the makerspace renovation from over the summer.
So moved.
Motion and second. Any discussions?
I have a question, so for A, this is, sorry, people.
So my money.
So for A, this is, if we approve this, it's not the final.
This is just approved for the architect to work with Chuck and us to make some changes and
Okay.
possibly do some even more changes after.
Yeah.
This is the same type of contract you're approving as you did last month for GPD, for the transportation center, $731,000, for the athletic upgrades, $200 and whatever thousand. This is the third piece of the architecture and engineering work that GPD is going to be doing, special education classrooms and restrooms. So the architecture will be ordered.
Anyone else? And then call the roll, please.
Mrs. Gillis. Aye. Mrs. Wackels. Aye. Mr. Engel. Dr. Messer.
Aye.
Mr. Zappa.
Aye. And I do believe we have to go into executive sessions for purchase of property for public purpose, for the sale of property and competitive bidding, and conferences with the board's attorney to discuss matters which are subject pending or imminent court action.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Engel.
Aye.
Mrs. Gillis. Aye. Dr. Messer. Aye. Mrs. Wackels. Mr. Zappa.
Aye.